This is Praise for. We're live from Praise for International Studio this morning. I'm super excited to have come your way again today. How are you doing? Okay, we're gonna listen to a song, then we will do our session for today. Are you ready? Okay, enjoy this.
You around me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears have gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear.
You are a child of God. Are you excited?
From my mother's womb,
He has chosen me.
Lord has
Called my name.
I've been born again
To a family.
Your blood flows
Through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Get ready for what we're sharing today. It gets me excited. I am a child of God. I'm no longer. I am a child of God.
I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I am
Surrounded. You're surrounded, guys, by the love of my Father. Your Father's arm surrounds you.
I am surrounded by songs of
Deliverance.
we've been liberated
We've been liberated.
from our bondage.
Oh yes, you are. You are a child of God.
We're the sons and the daughters. Let us sing our freedom.
Oh, 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 oh,
You split the sea so
I can walk right through it. My feet are running on love.
you rescued me.
So I can stand and sing. I am a child of God. You are God's child, come on. You are your Father's child. Let's go. My feet When Lord, I will stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Okay, good morning, my friends, wherever you're listening to me from. This is Praise for We're coming your way from Praise for International Studios. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. This week, I've been talking about healing, emotional healing. We've talked about how you can activate your mind over matter and bring healing to every part of your life. One of the things people do not know is that your hair is an everlasting organ. That's the only part of you that never dies. Which is why every part of your body, every part of your soul, every part of your spirit has got the ability to hear. That if you sound the right alarm, your world and your universe will listen to you. That consistently, many of us create the wrong environment around our life. You allow people sound the wrong signal around you. You allow people drown your life in fear. That the capacity to act like the son of your father, to do the things your father says you can do, to believe what your father says who you are, to move in the direction you really want your life to go, becomes messed up by the environment and the sound around your life, which drowns you in fear that you can no longer lift your head and move in the direction of where you want to go. So consistently, the greatest injury that people do to themselves is to live by the voice of their past, by the wrong voices that you have subjected your mind to, who have told you your father is angry with you. Today, I am here to liberate you from your fears and release you again to live like the authentic son of your father. If you are a woman, you are also a son to your father. You know what it is when you have a loving father who cares so much about you, that even when you mess up or you enjoy yourself, you run back home because your father is almighty, your father is all powerful, and your father can stand for you. Is God a righteousness that is above any form of righteousness that can... Okay, welcome back. There was a short break there. Many of us have this low self-esteem that manifests, in form of all kinds of, beliefs that have been installed in our brain that messed us up totally, that made us look like a second-hand material to our father. Many of you do not believe in your father as much as you believe in the handlers of your father, or the people who have positioned themselves over your life as the second in command to God, or as a middleman between you and God, teaching you stuff that your father never taught about. So consistently, I have met people who believe that they are the worst sinners on planet Earth by something they did 5 years ago, who keep believing that they are where they are because of the past pain that they felt or the past mistakes they made. People reinforce it and they say, oh no, God is not forgiving you because you made a terrible mistake. But think with me this morning. The same God that says that someone asked, how many times must I forgive my brother of whatever he has done to me? And it says 49 times 7 or times 9 or something like that, over 490 times or something like that, right? The same God will be so powerless to forgive you of something you have done, right? Think about it for a minute. So what has happened to many of us, why we are emotionally sick, physically sick, is because of spiritual sickness. And spiritual sickness is basically spiritual low self-esteem. The kind of esteem that has been imposed on you by people who created a different version of your father to find expression in your life. What I have seen consistently in life, and is a fact of life if you're going to be totally free, is that the people who made the antivirus are the ones who created the virus. The people who messed up your brain, they played with your brain, toyed with you, installed fear into you, are the same people trying to masquerade as your solution. How well can they free you from your pain, and how well can they heal you when they are actually the source of your problem? And if you become totally free and you become truly a child of God who know who you are, who live up to your status and to your standard, how relevant will they still be in your life? How much more will their businesses be able to run if you finally find yourself? So this morning, I want you to realize that one of the first lessons I learned on my way to healing is the fundamental truth that I am a child of God. And what that means is that God does not have a grandson. I'll repeat that. You are a son of God or a child of God, and God does not have a grandchild. Can you repeat that after me? I am a child of God, and God does not have a grandchild. Can you repeat that again? I am a child of God, and God does not have a grandchild. Can you say that one more time and let it sink deeply? I am a child of God, and God does not have a grandchild. Now, as simple as this statement may mean to you, a lot of us do not understand this statement, because consistently what has happened over time, which is what I have discovered, is that when a thought is brought, or when a concept is brought into your radar, or when a religion is brought, that religion stands on the culture that it meets on the ground. And automatically, it takes the shape of the culture that it meets on ground. So, when religion came to Africa, Africa is heavy on this is my father, this is my grandfather, not just Africa, across the world. This is my uncle. So consistently over time, our perception of God has taken that image. So you see people say, this is my father, this is my grandfather in the Lord, this is my uncle in the Lord. So consistently, they exclude themselves from direct access to God, believing that they can only see God through the eyes of the person who maybe introduced them to God or their teacher about God. What that means is all through their life, they will never be able to outgrow the person who so-called introduced them to God. Even if that person has left God, they will still continue to follow that person. So they see that person, they see God through the eyes of that person, such that even when that person leaves God, they continue to see God through the eyes of that person. So consistently, an average person never has a direct access to their father. So what happens is they see themselves as a grandson to God through the eyes of their grandfather or father in the Lord, and grandfather in the Lord, and great-grandfather in the Lord, and grand-uncle. So they consistently push themselves to the background when God wants to have a direct relationship with you. I am not saying don't honor people. Honor everyone. My default mode is to honor every man made in God's image. But the moment you do not believe or you do not accept that you are a child of God, what will happen is you are going to limit yourself. You are not going to be free to do what you want to do with your life. You are going to subject your truth to other people's truth. So when you are convinced of certain things, You are never going to do it because of what the grandfather will say, the father will say, the uncle in the Lord will say, the brother in the Lord will say, the firstborn in the Lord will say. Do you know how limiting this can be for you? So, I want you to be healed spiritually today by one, you need to believe in yourself as a child of God. What it means is you dare to call him your father and you have a direct access to him. So consistently, you no longer profile him through the eyes of the people taught you about God. You now have direct access to him. That many people talk about Jesus. They do not know that Jesus is simply our brother who paid a huge price for us to have direct access to our Father. So which means he's the firstborn of the family, right? But we are all children within the family. So if Jesus even says he's the firstborn among the dead, how dare you look down on yourself and reduce yourself to the grandfather, grandson, or great-great-grandson of your father when you actually have direct access? Many of you have read about the prodigal son. Even though the Bible did not call him prodigal son, we called him that. When he came home, his father did not ask him, so where did you go? So why did you go and waste your money on prostitute? His father never asked him that question because at the level of sonship, those questions don't matter. At the level of family meeting, what you did, how you messed up does not matter. What matters to your father is that you are back. So number one, I want you to believe yourself as a child of God. So I want you to close your eyes. Don't process God through the eyes of your earthly father. Process God through the eyes of the most loving father you can ever have. So I want you to close your eyes and imagine a strong arm holding you. Imagine yourself in the arms of the richest man in the whole world. The most loving, most faithful, most loyal father. The all-powerful, all-knowing, the omniscient, omnipotent. Imagine yourself in a place of tranquility where you are safe, where no evil can befall you, no sickness can take you. Just imagine yourself in that space where everything about your life works and you are resting in the arms of God the Father and is strolling you back and saying to you, you are my son. I want you to feel very relaxed in the arms of a loving father who loves you so much. You are in an environment where there is no judgment. All you have around you is love. Imagine that in your mind with your eyes closed. Imagine how you are blushing, surrounded by love. Imagine the peace you experience, the love, the wellness all around you. Imagine exactly how you feel when you have direct access to your father and you are having a family conversation with him. What are you asking him? What are you saying to him? What is he saying to you? What questions are you asking? And what is his response to the question you are asking? Fantastic. Fantastic. Now open your eyes. Now that's exactly how it feels when you take God as your father. Never forget that God has no grandchild. God only has children and you are one of his children. So which means you are qualified to become the best version of yourself. You are qualified to be who you want to be. Number two, you need to live life without apologies. If you are truly a child of God, you need to live life without apologies. A lot of us live life apologizing for who you are. You are going to make a mistake. Don't get it twisted. Yes, you are going to make a mistake, but your mistake is part of your journey. So don't let anybody talk to you and fool you and make you feel less than yourself and define you by your mistake. You are not your mistake. And you cannot be defined even by your weakness. You are a child of God. You know, a lot of us have done one or two things that is wrong in times past and you are dwelling there. Have you not noticed that majority of the people who rule this planet, so-called, or the people who have power in your country, or the people look up to when election time comes, are people we can classify as perpetual sinners. So how come they have power over you to define and determine the boundaries of your life, and things seems to be working for them? God has not killed them. You know what? Because power has a vacuum. The person that holds onto it is the person that the universe says amen to. So there are things many of you want to do, you are not doing, because in your mind, you are thinking, what will they say? What will my grandfather in the Lord say? What will my uncle in the Lord say? You need to live your life without apologies. You know why? You only have one life to live. Your life has an expiry date. The question is, how many years do you have left? And what is your report card so far? Who are you waiting for to approve your life? Consistently, I have seen that many of the people you are waiting for to approve the life you want to live don't really care about you. They care about their own biological children, not necessarily you. Which is why you realize that the rules that you have been given for not living your life, their children consistently violate that rule, and they are powerless in even correcting their children. So they'll tell you, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, because God will be upset with you. But their children are doing exactly the same thing, and they are praising their children for doing what they have told you not to do. So, live your life without apologies. Right? It's better to make a mistake doing what you are convinced about than to make a mistake doing what you have been told works that never works. So, live your life without apologies. Your mistake is part of the journey. I'm not saying become reckless. But how will you grow if you don't release what you're convinced about? Increase response to use. A lot of us are taking it slow, taking it calm, taking a lot of caution because we don't want to make a mistake. Your head has been poisoned with, you will not fail, you will not fail. Hey, you can fail forward. You can learn from your failures. You can learn what works and what to avoid. So, live your life without apologies. That's number 2. Number 3, no inferiority complex. No inferiority complex. You have heard about low self-esteem, but many of us suffer from spiritual self-esteem. The concept that someone is more spiritual than you, someone is more spiritually sound than you, someone is more spiritually vast than you is not totally correct. COVID-19 has shown that nobody is absolutely powerful and has it all together. It has shown that many of the people you think are powerful may not actually be as powerful as you think they are. Because nobody has been able to absolutely stop death. Nobody has been able to absolutely stop cancer. And that should give you a clue that maybe if you get closer to your Father and discover Him by yourself, you may even find what the people you look up to have not found. Like I said, honor everyone, but no inferiority complex. What if what you believe is the truth and what they believe is not the truth? What if the whole world is waiting on you to live the life you truly want to live, to create a new pathway for mankind? The question I ask all the time is, by what powers are people like Bill Gates operating? By what powers are people like Mark Zuckerberg operating? That we all depend on their platform, despite our so-called spiritual entitlement, spiritual intelligence, We are all resting on their platform to broadcast. We are resting on their invention to even find the expression. Yet, we think we are superior to them. Think for a minute. So, no inferiority complex. Complex can mess you up. Complex will make you abdicate your responsibility to others. Complex will make you feel less than who you are. Complex will make you think of yourself based on your mistakes. Complex will make you stay bound in something that is not working because of what people will say. Complex will make you take decisions that is less than what a mad person will take, simply because you are not confident enough, because you do not trust the ability of your Father to forgive you and still love you in spite of your feelings. Some of you are already children. You're already parents. Think of yourself for a minute. Has your child ever made a mistake that you are not proud of? What did you do? Did you cast away that child? Did you throw that child away? If you did not throw your child away, how much more your Father in heaven? So, no inferiority complex. And number 4, you need to lavishly use what has been deposited in you. Your Father deposited so much wealth, so much power, so much strength inside of you as his child. A lot of us never use what God has placed in us. And that is why some of us are classified as unprofitable servants. Because what God has placed in you is meant for humanity. In fact, the damage many of us have done is to classify what God has placed in us as secular, as spiritual, or you have allowed people to classify it as secular or as spiritual. So they classify what has been placed in you as secular, and you are not able to release it because you think it's not serving the cause of God. But the same people collect money from evil people, and they say once the money comes into God's hand, the money becomes clean. Can you see the hypocrisy? You have one life to live. You do not need to look outside of you. Can you look within you? Because the power that God has placed is not outside of you. Stop looking for powers. Stop running around. Look within you. There is power inside of you. And that power is meant for humanity. If you can dance, dance lavishly. Don't let anybody classify your dance as, why are you dancing seductively? Excuse me, it's not their dance. To him that is pure, all things are pure. It is their interpretation. So you cannot stop your dance because of someone who feels offended, whose mind is impure. He should take care of his mind. You are simply dancing, but they'll say your dance is seductive. Your dance is tempting people. Excuse me, your dance is not tempting anyone. They are being tempted by the messed up mindset that they have. You have a talent in singing, and they tell you, no, you are not singing for God. You are singing secular. Says who? Says who? Right? I'm not saying go and be singing lewd lyrical content, but someone is singing and they say, no. So they blackmail you, yet they're not going to pay your bills. Lavishly release the power your Father has placed in you and bless humanity. Humanity needs you to dance. Humanity needs you to feel good. Why would you classify what God has placed in you as secular or as spiritual? So all your life, what has been called spiritual is what happens in the holy places, or the building that is called the holy building, and everything that happens outside there, they call it secular. But the funding from the secular place is what funds this holy place. Guys, you need to understand that your Father is not upset with you. You need to use what he has deposited in you. That's one of the most powerful lessons I have learned. Which is why when I have any impression or I have any solution, I no longer go and subject it to scrutiny by authority figures I have set over my life, because some of them are not available for 3 months. So you keep your solutions bound for 3 months waiting for approval, right? And before you know it, someone else has gone to do it. Always remember, there is nothing you are thinking in your mind that you are the only one thinking it. If you fail to utilize it, under your watch, someone else will use it and you'll be wondering, where did this person get this from? The person copied me. The person did not copy you. God puts resources on the frequency. He responds to the fastest finger. The first to do it is the owner of that resources. Your father is not upset with you. Don't let people paint a messed up image of God to you. He says, in my father's house, there are many mansions. That place is not talking about heaven and mansion. No, there is no Julius Berger in heaven. That place simply means, in my father's house, there are several expressions of manifestations of potential. So someone can dance and is still a child of God. Someone can sing and is still a child of God. Someone can create a drink and is still a child of God. Someone can create anything. Remember, everyone is a product. We only have one producer. Products have no right to judge another product. Can we wait for the producer to actually judge? So what we do consistently is, if I am the bottle of Coca-Cola, you are the bottle of Fanta, another person is a bottle of Gulda, another person is a bottle of wine, what we do is, the wine looks at Gulda and say, Gulda, you are useless. Gulda looks at Coca-Cola and say, you, kings don't drink you. So products keep judging product. Meanwhile, the producer is looking at them and is wondering, what is wrong with all of you? Why don't you do what you have been created to do and leave what someone else has been created to do? The fact that you cannot do it doesn't mean I'm upset with the person who is doing it. Why don't you face your lane and live your life based on the truth available to you, and leave another person to live life based on the truth available to them? We create crises around the world when we seek to bottle everyone into our cocoon, and we think people can only understand God through our narrow-mindedness and our narrow prism. Forget what people say. Nobody can fully understand God. Your way might just be one of the innovative ways, or one of the newly released introduction that God has brought on the planet. Don't let anyone subject your truth. Don't let anyone hold you bound and mess you up. The last question is, what inheritance will you leave for your children's children? Will you leave an inheritance of fear, timidity, and on your deathbed, your greatest regret will be that you never fully lived your life? Or you are going to show your children how to be confident, how to live your truth, and how to promote their own mental wellness and confidence, so that they are not bound by the things that limits you. Freedom means free to have dominion. So why don't you release yourself today and do the things you've always wanted to do? Let me dare you today. Throw a party around your house today. Dance lavishly like a child once again. Your father is calling for you. And your father is never, ever going to classify your life based on your mistake. The best gift you can leave for your children is the gift of originality and authenticity. That our mother or our father lived life at the best, at the highest level they could have lived life. They did not subject their truth to the narrow-mindedness of someone who cannot see farther than where they are. That they respected and honored everyone, but they lived their truth. How long are you going to live in a lie? How long are you going to live your life based on what people will say? Many people are dying daily because of what people will say. They will never live their truth because they think the world will look at them and they'll say you are a failure. The best the world can say is to talk about you for 3 months. After 3 months, they'll pick someone else's story. But truth is, even now in 48 hours, there are new trending stories. So why would you not take the decision that promotes your wellness? Why would you not look at yourself through the eyes of your father and do what children do? You are your child. You're a child in your father's house. You are not God's grandchild. You are a child of God. I hope I have helped you today. So here are the questions for you today. How do you see yourself? I need to answer that question. How do you see yourself? Number 2, whose endorsement or permission have you allowed to limit you all through your life? Whose endorsement or permission have you allowed to limit you all through the years? 3. What will you do about the abilities that your Father has placed in you from this very moment? Don't let anybody look down on you and say to you, this ability is secular, is ungodly. No, no, no. God was not drunk when he placed that ability in you. So don't let anybody talk you down. If it's a need, please go ahead and meet it. I was talking to one of my mentees who wanted to start a business years in America. And the business was the business of cuddling. She said to me that year that she noticed a lot of people are dying of loneliness. And that she wanted to start a business of, she will recruit people who will cuddle lonely people, non-sexual touch, cuddling, and, for like 1 hour till they feel good, and they will pay and they will go. So I said, wow, fantastic idea. I think you should do it. Guess what she said to me? She said, I went to meet my spiritual leader and they said, I want to be promoting sin. So I tried to push her to say, go ahead, do it. For the fact that God has implanted this idea in your mind, you are not saying you want to have sex, you are just saying cuddling business. For the fact that you can see it in your mind means that it will be beneficial to certain people, and God is behind it, because if it's solving a problem for humanity, then God is behind it. But guess what? She did not listen. She followed what the so-called spiritual person said to her. About a year later, people floated cuddling business in America. And the guy that floated it became a multi-millionaire. The business began to trend. And today, cuddling business is a major business in American business space, where lonely people go and they receive a cuddle. And I think as at the last time I checked, they pay like $50 per hour. Then she called me and said, Mr. Praise, I feel so sad. And I said, what happened? He said, someone has stolen that idea I told you. I said, no, nobody stole your idea. You assumed that you were the only one that God was speaking to. So even though God was speaking to you, you qualified God as secular, and the person you were reporting to, who was too narrow-minded and his understanding of God were within the four walls of his establishment, he couldn't understand the new thing that God was doing. Let me ask you a question. If Moses had the spiritual father, and Moses ran to his spiritual father and said, Father, God just told me now to enter the Red Sea. I came for counseling. Do you think they will counsel him to go into the Red Sea? Think for a moment. If Daniel had the spiritual father, and he says, the king says, if we don't bow, we are going to the lion's den, and I want to go into the lion's den, will he counsel him to disobey the king? If Jesus had the spiritual father in quote, and he says, I think my destiny is to die for the sins of the world, I have come for counsel, do you think anyone has the capacity to counsel him to go and die on the cross? What that means is, there are things that God will say to you that the people you look up to may never understand. You must be responsible for your truth and live out your truth. Martin Luther said, 2 things you must do for yourself: you're believing and you're dying. That lady, I said to her, you assume that you are the only one God is talking to. The fact that that thing crossed your mind is proof that God wanted it birthed, because he has an entire population of people dying because they didn't have a hug. But you subjected it to scrutiny of someone who doesn't understand your pregnancy, and that pregnancy was terminated. But because God's idea must come to pass, someone else saw it on that same frequency, and the person tapped it and built a business out of it, and today it has become a business. You need to become responsible for whatever you hear and do it against all odds. Spectators are never consistent. When they don't understand you, they will talk you down. They will say all kinds of things against you. But when your product begins to find expression, the same people will clap for you and say, we knew you were going to make it. Number 4, what major step will you take? And who has life placed around you to take you to the next level? The person that life has placed around you may be someone who don't even believe what you believe, right? You need to recognize them. And number 5, what self-sabotaging pattern or beliefs must you delete from your system from today that is preventing you from accessing your Father directly? What self-sabotaging pattern or belief must you delete from your system from today that is preventing you from directly accessing your Father? And number 5, how will you relate with your Father henceforth? How will you relate with your Father henceforth? And that brings me back to where we started from. I am a child of God, and God has no grandchild. Can you repeat that as you hold your heart? I am a child of God, and God has no grandchild. I am a child of God, and God has no grandchild. Give yourself the next 24 hours. Retire everything, everyone who has limited you all this far. And today, have a direct relationship with your Father. Rest in his arms. Hear him say to you that he loves you. Sleep in his arms, right? Hear him say nice things to you. Question your Father. He wants to talk to you. And remember, he's going to breathe into your heart and show you what humanity needs. Run with it and produce it, right? Because humanity needs you. Once that thing passed the test of, is it a major need, right? Is there someone who may die if I don't do this? Is there someone who can benefit from what I am saying? Please don't allow people talk you out of the power God has placed in you. Go ahead, live life lavishly without apologies. You are a child of God. You are a child of God. You are a child of God. Have a fantastic day, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, remember, you are a child of God. Bye-bye.